President Biden is warning that the U.S. is facing this Armageddon risk due to Putin's latest nuclear threats. Now, this is while Saudi Arabia and OPEC cut oil production by 2 million barrels a day, despite President Biden lobby for a production increase. For more on this, we're joined by former chief of staff at the National Security Council and former CIA analyst, Fred Fleitz. Okay, Fred, at a fundraiser, we talked about this yesterday, at a fundraiser, Biden's like, hey, welcome, appreciate you donating, enjoy your meals. By the way, we're facing Armageddon, have another drink, write a check. I mean, like, why was this delivered willy-nilly off the cuff at a fundraiser and not in like a press conference with the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of State? Like, where did this come from?
No, that's a good question. Look, we know that the people of the world weigh every word a president says very carefully. That's why these gaffes by Biden are a big deal. We're not facing Armageddon if Russia uses tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine. As horrible as that would be, it is not comparable to the Armageddon we faced in the Cuban Missile Crisis. It just isn't. Biden shouldn't be saying that. But Biden actually said something that's worse. He said he doesn't see how tactical nukes could be used in Ukraine without it becoming Armageddon. That frankly doesn't make any sense. Biden is not just conveying his incompetence and his incompetent foreign policy. He's conveying his fear. Yeah. And I think as the leader of the free world to do that, it is really a dangerous situation and dangerous for our national security.
Well, and that was the big problem is the big criticism the left had of Trump was, we're the adults, we're back in charge. That guy was crazy. He's just said stuff off the cuff. And turns out now that's the polar opposite. Everybody's worried about Trump starting World War III, and there was world peace. You get historic peace deals in the Middle East. Now Biden gets in and everything's going to hell in a handbasket. But if Putin does use a nuclear weapon, like a lot of people, including me, are like, what does that response look like?
I think there probably won't be a military response. There can't be. We're not going to attack Russia. CIA Director Petraeus said we should attack Russian troops in Ukraine and destroy them and sink the Russian Navy if Russia uses tactical nukes in Ukraine. That would be Armageddon. And obviously, that's not what we're going to do. We would ratchet up the sanctions, go to China and India and other nations to isolate Russia. But we're not going to start a global nuclear war if tactical nukes are used in Ukraine. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, what does it? I mean, Fred, I got to push back on you a little bit here. It's like, look, these, if he goes there, we're there. Like, what do we get? We're going to produce sanctions? I mean, come on. The sanctions have done zero. The ruble is worth more than ever. He's pumping gas out to China. I mean, sanctions, that you really think that's the answer here?
I think the step of using tactical nukes in Ukraine would be the end of Putin's regime. I don't think his generals would support that for very long. I think he's so isolated. He would do that. It wouldn't make a real difference in the battle. The Ukrainians would keep fighting. And I think the popular resistance to the war would increase. But we can't contemplate escalating this to Putin possibly using nuclear weapons against Europe and the United States. Europe doesn't want that, and it won't support the use of an attack on Russia either if tactical nukes are used in Ukraine.
I don't know. You said that it might be the end of his regime, but that's when I worry even more. I mean, if he's going to use them, and that's going to spiral with more sanctions and more economic problems, he's going to lose support, and then he's going to become more desperate, and then who knows? In Chicago, Boston, like, what do they do? Do they give one to Iran? I mean, that's the thing that security, really worries me. But speaking of the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, okay, the Crown Prince was like, you know what? We're going to cut $2 million or 2 million barrels a day, and tough. So sad, so bad, right?
Look, the Saudis knew what they were doing. They knew this would have a significant effect on the November midterm election. This was a snub. It was a snub to President Biden, who has treated the Saudis badly. Remember, when Biden went to Saudi Arabia, he told the press how he lectured the Crown Prince while he was there about the killing of this Washington Post reporter. Saudi Arabia has been handled badly from the Biden administration from day one, and now they are seeing the consequences.
Yeah. I mean, there's Biden stumbling around an electric vehicle symposium. And I was just watching on screen. You can see him, again, goes off to the wrong side of the stage. Yet this is the guy who holds the nuclear codes and is apparently making foreign policy decisions at a fundraiser. But I want to talk more about the Saudi cut. I mean, the Saudis kind of know they have us over a barrel, to lack of better words here, to say that, look, we know the U.S. is not producing. We can bring them even further down the economic pipeline if we cut our oil and make it cost more over there. But do you think that the Saudis are thinking to themselves, like, it's the midterms, we can sink Biden and we can sink the Democrats? Or do you think that, and get a Republican in here, because the last time a Republican in, we worked together and we had historic peace deals and stuff like that? Or do you think that they're just trying to take the U.S. out totally?
I think the Saudis are sending a message to the Biden administration. They're saying, we don't like this nuclear deal with Iran. We don't like how you're trying to manipulate oil prices by releasing oil from the strategic petroleum stockpile when there's not an emergency. Basically, prices are going down, not through normal market forces, and that the Saudis are thinking like we're being cheated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a scary day when the Saudis are dictating foreign policy and potentially playing a major role in our midterms here based on the fact that we can't counter them. That's something. Fred Fleitz, we appreciate you being here.